Hey, good afternoon. Thank you all for the warm welcome. Great to be back with you again. Looking around the room, the pastor from our church is here, and my wife is here. And so I wrote this big long speech, and I'm like, all right, I got to cut out all the cuss words and all of the untrue stories. And so I have no idea what I'm going to talk to you all about today. No, I saw our pastor, and I looked at him, I was like, I wasn't there on Sunday because, which is what I'll open with. This past weekend was pretty awesome. I don't know what y'all did, but Lafayette area Festival International came back, and if you haven't been there, just really amazing, just a lot of fun and a great showcase of Louisiana. Of course, Jazz Fest was down in New Orleans, and great to have that back again with some good shows. Red Hot Chili Peppers subbed in for Foo Fighters. I mean, just a lot of fun. Great crowds down there. Garth Brooks, come on. I mean, how awesome is that you had a concert that once again triggered the earthquake monitors? I love that. It just fantastic. And on Sunday, I went down to Thibodeau. That's why I wasn't at church. And I went down to Thibodeau Sunday morning, very early before church, because they have a fireman's fair. And Thibodeau, Louisiana, has the largest volunteer fire department in the nation. The largest volunteer fire department, and it's a pretty cool model, because here's what happens: you have all these different fire districts around Thibodeau, and basically everybody's a member, and so it doesn't matter what you do. Like the CEOs aren't exempt; everybody's there, and so it creates this venue where everybody comes together, spends time, gets to know each other. And Thibodeau is a really cool community, and just seeing how you have that opportunity to come together and meet people that you otherwise might not cross paths with. And this fireman's fair, they just sit there and they had this auction. And to give you one example, they had a chainsaw at the auction. The chainsaw is probably, this one small gas chainsaw, probably $250. It actually sold for $2,000, because that's what they do. They come in and they take items and they just bid them up. But that's how they fund their fire department. And really cool, because they have all kinds of music and just an awesome community event, parade, race, everything. But it made me think about, after being in Thibodeau, it made me think about Louisiana. And it made me think about something that we did earlier this year. Another returning event that was canceled was Washington Mardi Gras. It's been going on for 70-something years. And it's a place where we once again celebrate Louisiana's culture, just like Festival International or Jazz Fest. We celebrate some of the great things about South Louisiana. And every time I'm at Washington Mardi Gras, I always think about, because a lot of y'all come up, you have thousands of people from Louisiana come up, and it's just this amazing party. We take over, and all these Washingtonians are looking, and they're just like, oh my gosh, like y'all are crazy. And the endurance and all the festivities and everything goes on. But you know what? There's not another state in the country that could pull that off. There's not. They don't have that joie de vivre. They don't have the awesome culture, the music, the art, the people, the food. They don't have it. And it's something that makes Louisiana really special, and it's one of the reasons why we live here. We're here on purpose. Louisiana and Pennsylvania, the two states in the country that have the highest percentage of native-born folks that stay there. Like, you go other places, you go on vacation and all that. You may even move out of town, you may go to school out of town, but you come back, because there's no place like this. And it's pretty awesome. But, we've got some challenges. We do. We've got some big challenges in front of us, and I'll bring up two, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some others, but the traffic situation here, come on. It's outrageous. We recently got ranked the 4th worst traffic in America. And we're right up there with the cities you'd expect: Washington, D.C., Miami, and Los Angeles. Really? I mean, think about the population of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, compared to those other cities. And that's where we are. And this isn't something we can, beat up on John Bell and say, you should have done this, and Bobby Jindal and Blanco and who. Look, this should have been done 40 years ago. This should have been done by the other Governor Edwards. And it's just something that's not being addressed. The crime issue. Every single one of us has a role in addressing this. Every single one of us. But you know what? Having that type of security threat, those types of security threats in our community, it's unacceptable. And it makes this place in some cases, really challenges our ability to live here, to want to continue with the family here. And we've got to fix those things. But you know what we do? You know, the crime issue has been one of those things that's kind of gone up and down over decades. The traffic issue has just gone up and become a bigger problem over decades. But you know what we do? Rather than us spending 90% of our time focusing on those issues where every single person in this room agrees, let me know right now if you don't think we should fix our traffic problem. And good luck, because you're going to get slammed with some food. And what about the crime issue? You know, if you don't think we should address it, stand up and say so. And again, but you know what we do? We spend 90% of our time focusing on the 10% of things we disagree on, instead of spending 90% of our time on the 90% of things we agree with. We agree with each other, the things that are truly priorities. Look, I fly back and forth to Washington, D.C. Oh my goodness, I mean, I feel like I'm in another country up there sometimes, and coming back, and I recently was in Ukraine. Look, Washington is this divisive. They spend 99% of their time on 1% of the things that people disagree on, and just constant fighting. It's about what's best for the political party, not what's best for the country. In Ukraine, going over there and meeting with these people, and going across that border from Poland into Ukraine, talking to the refugees that are leaving, the people that look just like you, just like our communities, that are driving out with their kids, and you could see it on their face, telling stories, just awful, indiscriminate killings over there. It's incredible seeing what's going on. Absolutely incredible. And so, you know, it made me reflect on priorities. It made me think about things that we really need to be prioritizing. And rather than us sitting in this room, sitting in this community, sitting in this state, or sitting in Congress, fighting with each other, why don't we look at Louisiana? Why don't we look at this country and think back about history, think back about potential, and think back about a different strategy? It applies to so many different things. Again, the bridge we've been talking about for 40 years. The new bridge was built before I was born. And so what we've been trying to do, and look, we're not perfect. We don't bat 1,000, we try. But what we've been trying to do is focus on some of these things that I think are real challenges before us, but help to address impediments to open up opportunity. You know, you look back, and I said this last time I'm here, and I'm going to do it again because I love these statistics showing how extraordinary we are, in addition to the culture, the music, the food, the people. So South Louisiana, all right, y'all know this. Over 200 years ago, Thomas Jefferson tells Monroe and Livingston, go buy New Orleans, go buy South Louisiana, the Florida parishes, that area. And he said it because he said, look, if we don't have this, the future of our country is at risk, because that Mississippi River gateway, it's the gateway to the country, it's the gateway to the world. Very wise decision, and I love the rest of that story. It's, you know, Monroe and Livingston were there negotiating. They weren't authorized to buy anything other than South Louisiana, and, you know, next thing you know, they buy Montana and the entire Louisiana Purchase. They claimed the internet was down, and just, but it's, you know, it's awesome. But I want y'all to remember this. I want you to remember this. All of that stuff was bought. Montana, the entire Louisiana Purchase was bought. You know why? Because of us, because of down here, because of what we have. They recognize the strategic importance. And look today, 5 of the top 15 ports in America, boom, right here in South Louisiana. Thomas Jefferson knew what he was talking about. We can access 31 states going north, and we can access the world going south out of here. It is the cheapest way to transport goods, putting it on a ship, putting it on a barge. It has the lowest emissions. It's the best way. That is a strategic advantage. It's incredible, a strategic advantage. And you know what we recently did? We recently secured the funds to deepen and widen the river to make sure that these larger vessels, that they can actually fit in the river and they can access our ports here, because the river wasn't deep or wide enough. So we secured every penny. That project had been stuck since the mid-1980s. Got all the funds. It's underway now. Number 2 places in the country that have 6 Class 1 rail lines, Louisiana and Illinois. That's it. So again, you're trying to distribute things around the country. We've got the ports and we've got the rail. Nobody has both. Number 3, you know the place that has the cheapest electricity rates in America? Boom, right here. We do. Cheapest electricity in the nation. And we have, if you're an energy intensive business, we have natural gas coming out of our ears. We have this very, very widely distributed pipeline system to get it anywhere virtually. And it goes even beyond there. We've got these abundant natural resources in the Gulf of Mexico, top commercial seafood producer in the lower 48, one of the top recreational fishing destinations. And one of the most amazing statistics that seems like it's just me heaping praise on you, but it's true also, is that we have the highest value-added workforce in America. The highest value-added workforce in America. Bureau of Labor Statistics looked and said when you take raw materials and you put it in a state or they process it and they kick out a new product, who brings more value than anywhere else in the country? And it's you. It's Louisiana. And not by a little bit. We're triple that of Vermont. Triple. So if you're sitting there and you're a large business or you want to come make an investment in manufacturing or production, why in the world would you not come to the place? Why would you not go to the place? Cheapest electricity, abundant available energy. You can put it on a barge, you can put it in a rail car. You've got great workforce. Why wouldn't you come here? But what do we see over and over and over again? We see we lost it to Texas. We lost it to Florida. Our population is going down. Our economic activity is going down relative to the rest of the country. Like many of you, we have 3 kids. I don't want this brain drain thing to continue. I'd love for them to have awesome opportunities here, to be part of our community. My wife and I talk about how our oldest is, going to be going to college, and just thinking about him at some point when he goes away. I mean, just thinking about that, wanting to make sure that he stays, that he comes back at least. And so what do we need to do? How do we take that 90% of problems and focus 90% of our attention on it, as opposed to focusing on those simple things, those few things that we disagree on? We've narrowed it to 5 things that I think we've got to focus on here. And we're working to do our part, and I'd urge you, hold us accountable to that. Number 1 is infrastructure. Look, I talked about traffic. How in the world are we going to get somebody to come here if they can't even get their people to work or get their products around? And let me be clear. I want to be clear on authorship of these 5 things. These are a result of me calling CEO and C-suite members of international corporations and others that have looked at Louisiana as potentially coming in and making an investment. These are the 5 things that I hear over and over and over and over again. So again, traffic problems. 4th worst in America. We're not anywhere near that amount of population. And the bridge issue, we can laugh about it and do whatever we want. My gosh, we've got to get that bridge built. And on the one hand, I commend Governor Evers for putting $500 million in the budget. I really appreciate him doing that. On the other hand, I'm frustrated because they started 7 years ago studying the bridge and they've narrowed it to 30. Kid with a crayon can figure this out. It's unacceptable. So now the legislature's fighting about these funds because they're saying they can't spend them. Look, we shouldn't be in this situation 7 years later and you've narrowed it to 30? It's frustrating. We changed the law a few years ago under a $1 billion grant program to try to make federal funds available under a $1 billion grant program for this bridge. We couldn't earmark, so we basically described it in writing without naming it. And you know what? We can't even apply for the grant because they don't have a bridge alignment yet. They haven't selected where it's going to go. We've got to focus our energies, our efforts, and get this done. We've got to secure these dollars, and if we can't spend it on the bridge right now, we know the bridge is going to connect LA 30 at Nicholson on this side and LA 1 on the other. My gosh, let's make sure we don't move people from one traffic jam to the other. Let's make investments on those roads and upgrade them. We need to do this. It's going to continue to stifle us. Number 2, look, we can have awesome places to eat food, awesome places to work, to live, to go to church, to recreate, to go to school. If they're underwater, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And we have seen it. We have seen it in the last 6-7 years, the repetitive flooding, these things we're now calling rain bombs because it's not during hurricane season or it's not a hurricane. Last year, was it May and June or whatever, the 2016 flood? Look, we can't continue to have these communities, don't worry about it, we'll just muck and gut your home for the 3rd time and you can just move right back in. It's unacceptable. People are like, I'm out of here. And so we've got to fix this. And I'm going to talk in a minute about some of the things we've been able to do on infrastructure. And one of the other infrastructure categories, I think, is livability. It's one of the things that I've heard from these CEOs. Looking at these livable communities, places to recreate, places for families to go do things. That's a big draw for these corporations that are looking where to go. And we've got to make some improvements here. Yeah, we can do crawfish bowls and all these things that are awesome, but let's make sure we're thinking about that livability here in Louisiana as well. Second category is one that I mentioned, and that's crime. Look, some of the highest violent crime rates in America are happening right here. New Orleans is right there with us. If I remember these numbers right, I think there were 63 officers that were killed nationally last year. This is, to be clear, this is a trend nationally, but certainly worse here. 63 officers killed last year. I think we've already had 101 shot this year in 4 months. I just want to redistinguish. Those were shot and killed, the 63, but we've already had 101 that have been shot this year. It's unacceptable. We've got to focus on this. And we have been working, and I'm going to talk about some of the things we've been doing in that category. Next is education, which goes hand in hand with crime. Look, people go in survival mode if they don't have options, and I think that's what's motivating crime in some cases. We have, as many of you have seen, and I know there are a lot of people in this room that are working on this, we have some of the worst education outcomes in the nation. I refuse to believe that our state is comprised of a bunch of dumb people. I don't believe that at all. And I'll tell you, I was talking to a gentleman on the way in here. We do appointments to the military academies. And looking at the incredible resumes of these students, these seniors in high school. I mean, these folks, the grades, the performance on standardized tests, the diversity in their background, their volunteer efforts, their sports performance. Gabe, you and I wouldn't have had a chance in hell. I mean, these kids are amazing. They're amazing, just off the charts. It's like, what, who do we choose? The kid with the 4.0 and the perfect ACT, or the kid with the 4.0 and the perfect ACT? We had a girl, Baton Rouge High, a senior, this year who, first time I've seen it, she got into the Air Force Academy, she got into West Point, she got into the Naval Academy, and got into the Merchant Marine Academy. All four of them, and all of them in the first announcement we got, which usually is their top choice, their top priority. All four academies. She was amazing. And we had another student who got in 3. Look, we have an opportunity to fix this. It is going to be a long-term investment. It's going to be a long-term reform, but we have got to address this. It's unacceptable and it threatens our future. Fourth one, taxes. This is state tax code. We modernized the federal tax code in December of 17. Within 4 months, we saw hundreds of billions of dollars of foreign investment coming into the United States. We collected more revenue within 4 months than had ever been collected by the federal treasury in history. Let me reiterate. We reduced taxes, improved global competitiveness, and we brought in more money in American history. We need to take a look at Louisiana's tax code. We hadn't updated the federal tax code in 40 years. We've got to take a look at Louisiana's. Why is it that Texas and Florida are outperforming us? Why is it that our population's going down? Why is it that these companies, are selecting other states? We can fix that. We can model ours after some of these other states. We can fix that and improve the competitiveness of Louisiana. And the fifth one, look, we cannot have the most expensive auto insurance rates in America. We can't. From a competitiveness perspective, it is awful. Talking to these CEOs, they come out and they say, hey, we've got to pay our employees $20,000, $30,000 a year more because we've got to include private school education and we've got to be able to offset the expense of auto insurance. Look, this isn't rocket science. We model it after the laws that have some of the cheapest, and we can address this. It's going to improve the competitiveness of the United States. And let me remind you, who does high auto insurance rates the highest, who does it hurt the most? It hurts those that can least afford it, the people that we're trying to lift up. Those are the 5 things that I think we've got to focus on here. And let me say it again. This is everybody. Everybody. Don't sit there and when John Bell comes next week, pound him on it. This is all of us. All of us play a role in this. So let me tell you, and including us. So let me run through a few of the things. Infrastructure, on traffic. I mentioned the grant program we established, we can't even apply. We've been able to secure $2 to $3 billion in additional funds for transportation projects, helping things we talked about in the past, like the new Terrace exit. We have a new exit that's going to end up being installed between Seagan and Highland, where we've already made substantial improvements coming in right there. We've added the new lane on I-10 between Highland Road and 73. We're working on a new lane between Lobdell, which is the west side Port Allen, that Lobdell, all the way over to the 10-12 split. All these projects are in the works or they're completed right now. Billions of dollars in new transportation investments. And on the flood protection side, because it's fundamental, it's foundational, we can't be underwater. Everything from the Comey project that's north of us, they told us $392 million. We get all $392 million, only to have them come back and say, yeah, we need an additional $128 million, which we secured a few months ago. So that project's under construction to provide flood protection benefits for East Baton Rouge, Livingston, and Ascension. $255 million right here in Baton Rouge, Ward Creek, Jones Creek, Bayou Fountain, Beaver Bayou, and Blackwater Bayou in the north part of the parish, helping to clean those out, helping to improve them, helping to increase the velocity or the flow of water to get it out of our neighborhoods faster. That's underway south of us down in the river parishes. We had a project, $760 million. We got every penny of it for them, only to have them come back and say, hey, we need another $453 million. We were off a little bit. I don't know how you do that. I really don't. But in any case, we got them $453 million on top of the $760. And that project's underway right now. Look, I could go on and on about all the flood protection investments. They total about $6 billion in new flood protection investments. And these are projects that have been around. These are like the bridge, 70s, 80s, 90s, have been completely stuck. And they're all moving forward so we can have a safe community. Thank you. If we're going to talk about crime, or education, we've had a lot of efforts at the federal level trying to force different directives into our education in Louisiana. And we've largely fought those because I do believe that we have a model of parents, teachers. We have a model of our school boards. And I think that they should be the ones making the decisions and tailoring the education to our challenges, to our needs here. And we've been able to provide additional funds, we've been able to provide additional flexibility, and we're continuing to work on that. I do think, and I know this is a controversial statement, but look, if we have failing schools and that's the only option for these communities, it's unacceptable not give them a choice. It's unacceptable. And we've got to continue to either force these schools to perform or give our kids an alternative. On the crime issue, I've been talking to the police officers, talking to the sheriff and others. Look, we have people out right now that are on 3 bonds at the same time. They committed a crime, got arrested, got put out on bond. Did a second crime, got arrested, got put back out on bond. Third crime. Why are they out on bond? Because they're not going through trial. They're not going through trial because, one, the courts have been backed up, and number two, some degree because of COVID, number two, and this has been a huge issue, is processing evidence. So we just secured funds to allow Sheriff Gautreaux to create his own DNA analytical capabilities here. We secured every penny of it. He's going to invest those funds, create it right here in EBR, and be able to help address some of this backlog. And we have provided tens of millions of dollars for our law enforcement agencies in this region, trying to help them with technology, helping them with additional officers, helping them with equipment, and we're going to continue doing that. On the tax issue, look, I'm going to be honest, it's a state issue, but we have been working with our legislature on addressing the taxes. The fifth one is the tort reform of the liability laws. We've introduced bipartisan legislation trying to do our part, playing some role there. In New Orleans, there was a racket. There was a group of folks, everything from drivers to attorneys to doctors, that had staged 120 traffic. I can't call them accidents, just crashes. Staged them. 120. To put in perspective, just one had a payout of $3.7 million. Do the math. They just convicted the 33rd person as part of this racket. Guess who pays all those collective judgments? We do. And so we've introduced legislation at the federal level, I'll say it again, bipartisan legislation at the federal level to make sure that federal law enforcement gets involved, that it is a federal crime to do that type of criminal ring, staging accidents and charging the rest of us for it. And we're working together with the state of Louisiana on some additional improvements based upon models in other states that have proven we can bring rates down. Look, I'm going to say this again, I said it earlier. Look, we've made some progress, and I'm really excited about the progress because some of the things that we've worked on have been things that have been stuck for in excess of 40 years. And it's awesome being able to continue to knock those things out. We don't bat 1,000. We make mistakes. I say stupid things sometimes, but I'll tell you, we've been able to make a lot of progress. And there was an assessment that was done by Vanderbilt University just last year, and they looked at the most effective members of Congress. And they rated our office as the fourth most successful, the fourth most effective in terms of delivering results, getting bills done, getting projects done, getting amendments through. And we've got a great team of people. Paul Sawyer, our chief of staff, is right over there. And Paul is phenomenal. Many of you know him, and just an encyclopedia and amazing. Maggie Airy, our legislative director in Washington, just off the charts and has been knocking these long-term problems out one by one. We got a great team of people. On the appropriations side, I mentioned some of the projects. We just got ranked on the appropriations bill. We're the sixth most successful in delivering appropriations. I want to be clear. Oh, pork barrel spending. No. You know why we were sixth most successful? Is because we worked with people in this room and elsewhere, identifying the right priorities and getting things done that actually make sense and are a federal responsibility, not funding these superfluous things. And we've been able to make a lot of progress in that area, but I can't say it enough. Look, we've got an amazing state. We've got amazing fundamentals. And back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, this region of the country was blowing away Houston, Dallas, Austin, blowing away Birmingham, Atlanta, and Charlotte. And look now, they're all leaving us behind. But you know what? Those fundamentals that were there, that were strengths that I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, they're still there. They're still there, and they're still just as relevant today. They're just as relevant today as they were back then. We've got to invest them properly. We've got to make sure that we're playing our cards right, that we're not making decisions that are selfish in the interest of politicians, but are truly in the interest of the public. So look, I appreciate the opportunity to represent this region. I think it's awesome. You know, it's like a salesperson having a great product. And it's an honor to do it, and it's a great part of the state. But I can't say this enough. My gosh, our future, we're all of these trends, they're heading in the wrong direction for us. All the reasons that you're here, that you moved here, that you stayed here, they're in jeopardy. The next generation is in jeopardy unless we collectively work together on these things, unless we collectively address these challenges and opportunities that are before us. I'm committed to doing it, continuing to work on it. I'll say it third time, we're not going to bat 1,000, but we're going to put our best effort forth and continue working on these things. But I think that these 5 things, the things that I hear from CEOs and other C-suite folks over and over and over again, are the 5 things that we've got to work on to unleash Louisiana's potential. So thank you all very much. Yeah. And happy to take any questions that y'all have or comments or criticism. Yeah.
Congressman, I appreciate you representing our district. One of the things, and I'm going to put you on the spot, I know it's controversial, the Supreme Court in Roe versus Wade and what's happened there. I know there's discussion among senators and congressmen about actually codifying if Roe versus Wade is overturned by the Supreme Court, about whether Congress is going to codify some sort of bill that would continue allowing abortion.
Yeah, thanks. Asking about the reported decision on the case in Mississippi that would potentially implicate Roe versus Wade, or the law that protects right to abortion. And so let me say, number one, the decision that's out, while the Supreme Court has verified it was a draft, they also indicated, Chief Justice Roberts indicated that it was not final. So before people go complain or celebrate, I want to be clear. They've made it clear that it's not final. Number two, your point was that is Congress going to act? And I'll say, are they going to try to act? Yes. Are they going to be successful? No. And you didn't ask me this, but I'll tell you. I very much support the decision, and here's why. What they do is they allow states to make their own decisions. Right. And I am for every single time returning these decisions as close to the people as possible. I don't think that Washington dictating to us is the right solution. I hope that their final decision does reflect this, and the people that you elected in the Louisiana legislature will be able to make laws. And you know, our governor who's coming next week, who is pro-life, I know that he would certainly support any strengthening that's presented to him. So I do think that they're going to try, but I don't think they're going to be successful because it takes a 60-vote margin in the Senate, and I think at best they probably get somewhere around 53 votes in the Senate, aren't able to hit the 60. So, thank you. Yes, sir.
You run for governor?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. No, I appreciate it. You got to ask my boss. He asked if I was running for governor, and I'll be really honest with you, and my wife would answer this question the same way because we've talked about this. Look, this was the first office I ever ran for, and I never ever thought I was going to run for anything. She's the one who hates politics over there is the one who talked me into doing this. And quick little side story. First, I was really honored, and I was like, oh my gosh, she thinks I'm like really, like special, and I'll do a good job and all that. And then I win, and I realize I'm out of the house 4 days a week. I'm like, oh. I know who the smart one is. But so look. Do I think that Louisiana hadn't played its cards right? Yeah, absolutely I do. Do I think that this next governor is going to be absolutely pivotal in Louisiana's future? Look, half of the state's budget, you know what it is right now? 1/2 of our state's budget is Medicaid. Medicaid. I don't think the trajectory that we're on right now is the right one, and I think I tried to say that over and over again. Is the only way to affect that being governor? No, I don't think that's the case. I think that I could serve in Congress. I think I could be at a not-for-profit, private sector, what have you, just like all of you could play a role in improving Louisiana's future. So the answer is at this point, I'd be lying to you if I told you that I've never even thought about it, but I'll also tell you, as my wife will, that we have absolutely no plans to do it. I just want to wait and see how things evolve, and most importantly, I want to focus on the job that we've got right now, which is pretty challenging right now with as divisive as things are.